Hello everybody, Resonance here, and today I'll be giving you all my tutorial on the basics of Hearthstone. A lot of people ask me what I play in my spare time when I'm not playing Age of Empires 2, and the answer, believe it or not, is usually Hearthstone. This is easily one of my favorite games to play and an extremely fun game to watch, so this video will serve as an introduction in case you're interested in trying the game or you would like to support my channel. So Hearthstone is a free-to-play collectible card game that features fast-paced and similar gameplay to classic card games like Magic the Gathering. Hearthstone is incredibly easy to learn if you're new to card games, and yet it offers a tremendous amount of depth for any competitive players. During this video, I will explain the basics of the game, how to build a good budget deck, and I will also offer tips on how to get started. If you enjoyed this video, then I have plenty of other Hearthstone videos on my channel and in the video description below. I also encourage you to ask me any questions during my Twitch TV live streams. You can find my live streaming schedule by heading to my Twitch page and scrolling underneath the video player there. So in Hearthstone, matches are usually a 1 versus 1, and you win by reducing your opponent's life total to 0. Each player starts with 30 health, as you can see by looking at their hero portraits, and your hero is always at the bottom of the screen. At the start of the game, each player draws cards from their respective deck of 30 cards, and then they may decide to keep or redraw any number of cards in their starting hands. Players will then take turns drawing cards from their deck and playing cards from their hand. In order to play a card, you must first have enough mana crystals to pay for it. You can see the mana cost of each card in the top left of the card, and you can see how many mana crystals you have in the tray in the bottom right corner of the screen. Both players start with just 1 mana crystal, and at the start of each turn you gain another mana crystal, and your spent mana crystals are also refreshed so they can be used again. Now would be an important time to note that the player who goes second draws 4 cards at the start instead of 3, and they also start with an extra card called the Coin, which gives them 1 extra mana crystal for that turn only. Note that the maximum number of mana crystals that you can have at one time is 10. So what kind of cards can you spend mana crystals on? Well, there are 3 main types of cards in Hearthstone. The first are called spells. These cards do their effect as described and then the card is gone. The second type is minions. These cards summon a minion onto the battlefield that stays there until it gets destroyed. Minions have a health stat in red in the bottom right corner, and they have an attack stat in yellow that sits in the bottom left corner. Minions can either attack enemy minions on your opponent's side of the board, or they can attack the enemy hero directly. When a minion hits a hero, it deals damage equal to the minion's attack stat. However, when minions attack another minion, they both exchange damage equal to their attack stats, meaning that these 2 minions will kill each other when I attack. Minions can survive damage, but they do not regain health unless you heal them with specific cards or effects. It is important to note that a minion cannot attack on the same turn it is played, and they also can only attack once per turn unless the card text specifies otherwise. Players will then take turns playing spells and minions to trade with enemy minions to fight for control of the board. Once a player has complete board control, they will usually start attacking the enemy hero to close out the game. Minions may carry a wide variety of effects on them, as described in their card text, and if you ever forget what those words mean, you can always hover your mouse over the card and the game will explain it to you. To keep things simple, I will only be explaining some of the more prevalent card mechanics in this video. The first keyword is taunt. If an enemy minion has taunt, then your minions and your hero will only be able to attack the taunt minion until it is destroyed. Minions with taunt can protect other minions and their hero from attacks. Another important keyword is charge. Minions with charge can attack on the same turn they are played, whereas normally most minions have to wait a turn before they can attack. Another keyword is battle cry, and this means that when the minion is played, its battle cry effect will also happen. This means that when I play this Elven Archer, its battle cry will deal 1 damage to this enemy minion. The last keyword I'm going to explain is death rattle, and this means that once that minion dies, the death rattle effect will happen. So to recap, battle cry effects happen when the minion is played, and death rattle effects happen when that minion dies. Now before you jump into a game of Hearthstone, the game will ask you to pick from 1 to 9 different heroes. Each hero has a small set of class cards that only they can use, and they also have a unique hero power. Besides spending mana crystals and playing cards from your hand, you can also spend 2 mana crystals once each turn on your hero power. Hero power effects are generally pretty weak, but they are also a great way to spend any unused mana crystals that you may have left over. A skilled player will make efficient use of their hero power and use it to turn the tides in any close battle. Let's talk a little bit about building a deck now. Like I just mentioned, each hero has a small set of class cards that are unique to that hero. All spell cards are class specific. However, there are also neutral cards that every hero can use, but neutral cards can only be minions and not spells. In general, class cards are a bit stronger than neutral cards. So what's the first thing you should consider when building a deck? Well, of course, you want to put good cards in your deck. Now keep in mind there are very few strictly bad cards in Hearthstone, and there are also plenty of excellent basic cards as well. Despite that though, the key parts of Hearthstone are building your collection, experimenting with new deck ideas, and improving your old decks by replacing cards. So with these tricks, we can get a better idea of what cards to put in our decks and what cards to cut later on. First, let's talk about the vanilla test. The vanilla test is a great rule you can use to get a general idea of how good or bad a minion card is at a glance. So how it works is you look at the minion, and then you add up both its attack and its health stats. Then you compare that number to double the minion's mana cost. If the minion's attack and health combined is more than double its mana cost, then the card could be quite strong. For example, let's take a look at the basic card called Chillwind Yeti. If we add up its attack and health, we get 9, and if we compare that to double its mana cost, which is 8, we can already tell that the Chillwind Yeti is a great minion. This is a card that as a new player I really didn't appreciate because there's nothing particularly flashy about it. I think a really common mistake that new players make in Hearthstone is over-evaluating how much card text is worth, but it is worth something. If we compare the Chillwind Yeti to Ascension Shieldmaster, clearly the Ascension Shieldmaster is missing one stat point, but it also has taunts. Evaluating the worth of card text is usually very tricky and takes some experience, but in general we can say that taunts is worth around one whole stat point, so this minion is actually pretty good. Magma Rager in comparison is terrible because it's missing a stat point and has no card text. It also has 1 health, which means it dies to everything. 1 health is really only tolerable on a 1 mana minion or a minion with an extremely powerful effect like charge or draw a card, of which Magma Rager meets neither requirement. Lastly, synergy is also important to keep in mind when building your deck, because a card like Bloodfen Raptor is generally going to be less useful than Acidic Swamp Ooze unless some other cards in your deck have synergy with beasts. So for example, if you're playing as the Hunter class, or a beast-themed druid, then Bloodfen Raptor could be the better choice. Kobold Geomancer could also be good in Rogue or Mage if you're playing a lot of low-cost spells. Evaluating cards is usually incredibly difficult though, as card effects get more complicated over time. So I always recommend that you keep an open mind and continue to experiment. Now that being said, there are actually a couple basic cards in Hearthstone that are just strictly terrible and you should never play. Dalaran Mage, Ironforge Rifleman, Silverback Patriarch, Magma Rager, and Corehound are all great examples of bad cards to avoid, and they can teach new players a lot about important concepts in the game. There are still plenty of excellent basic cards though, and if the card is not on this list, then feel free to give it a try. So now that we have an approximate idea of how to evaluate cards, there is another important thing to consider when building your deck. In Hearthstone, you start with 1 mana crystal, and every turn after that, your mana is refilled and you gain another one. This means that for the most part, a powerful deck will contain at least a few low-cost early game cards and a few high-cost late game ones. This is a concept known as a mana curve, and if you go to the deck builder and hover your mouse over the deck name, then it will show you your deck's mana curve. There is a lot of flexibility in how you build your deck, from the cards you play to the distribution of their mana costs. But when you're starting out, I really recommend having a similar mana curve to the one that you see in this deck. This basic mage deck that I created is very powerful, and you can use it as an example of how to build a strong beginner deck for the other classes as well. It is a balanced mid-range mana curve, it has a good mix of spells and minions, it plays efficient cards, it has some early game, some late game, some card draw, some taunts, and a board clear AoE card in Flame Strike. When you are just starting out, you won't have some basic cards like Frostbolt, Water Elemental, and Flame Strike, but you can earn those cards by playing games against the Innkeeper AI or other players in any mode. So to start out, I would recommend building a custom basic mage deck like this one, and then when you unlock all of the other cards, you can transition into the deck list that I just showed you. Alright, so now that you know the basic rules, how to evaluate cards, and how to build a good deck, let's talk a little bit about how to get started in Hearthstone. After you've cleared the tutorial, you can unlock all of the other classes by defeating them in any game mode. I recommend practicing against the Innkeeper AI under Solo Adventures, and defeating him to unlock the other classes. With some practice, and especially if you use the basic mage deck I suggested, you should be able to defeat him and many of your first opponents. Once you feel more comfortable with the game, then you can try some matches in casual or ranked mode. It is worth noting that for ranked play, you cannot lose ranks below rank 20, and if you make it to rank 20, then you earn this month's special card pack. So I always recommend trying to get to rank 20 every month since you have nothing to lose, and rank 25 to 21 are mostly populated by new players. The ranks after that though can be a little bit intimidating until you get more comfortable with the game and you have a larger collection. So from playing Hearthstone, you'll earn gold, which you can use to buy card packs, unlock single player adventures, or play in the arena. For the most part, quests are going to be your main source of gold, and you get a new one each day, for a maximum of 3, and most quests can only be completed in any mode besides solo adventures or practice matches versus the Innkeeper. You also get a free card pack for playing your first game in play mode, another pack for winning 5 games in practice mode, another free pack for getting any class to level 10, and even another free pack for playing 1 game of Hearthstone on your phone. In addition, you get 100 gold for unlocking every hero, and another 100 gold for getting every hero to level 10. If you decide to buy any card packs, I usually recommend buying classic packs first, because that set has a lot of great cards that form the foundation for most decks. While Hearthstone is free to play and you honestly don't need to spend any money to kick some butt, it is going to take a long time to build a collection if you don't spend any money, and even longer if you aren't watching my Twitch stream or YouTube videos for tips. You certainly don't need legendary cards to win, and in fact, many strong decks only have a few, and you can definitely make it to legend rank with budget decks that have none. But part of the fun of Hearthstone is experimenting with new decks. If you do decide to try Hearthstone, you will have a lot more fun if you spend just $25 on the League of Explorers adventure. Note if you watch this video a year from now, you'll probably want to buy the newest adventure instead, after League of Explorers rotates out of standard. A lot of players seem to have this stigma of spending money in a free-to-play game, but I consider it to be just the same as buying a $60 game. The Hearthstone adventures are an extremely cost-efficient source of cards and incredibly fun to play, so if you buy anything, I'd really recommend buying one of them. They also teach you important concepts such as how to build decks, how to adjust your deck to beat specific bosses, managing your life total, how to trade minions and attacks efficiently, and that fighting for control of the board wins games. You can clear the normal mode of all adventures with just basic cards, and if anyone wants to see it, I can do some walkthroughs with basic decks. So for just $25, you're going to have a lot more fun, learn the game faster, and earn cards quicker because you'll have a bigger collection. If there's any demand for it, I'd be happy to do another tutorial later where I show you how to build budget decks in detail and provide some examples of some powerful League Explorer budget decks. So to end off this video, I hope that my tutorial has helped you better understand how to play Hearthstone, and that has maybe even encouraged you to try the game. Hearthstone is an incredibly fun game and one of my personal favorites to play. I think it's important though to keep in mind that while Hearthstone does have a tremendous amount of strategy, luck plays a factor in every match, so don't take it too personally if you lose. Just don't let luck always be your go-to excuse, because more often than not, you could have either made a different line of play, or you could have structured your deck better. The single most important tip I can give you is that unless you're playing a very aggressive deck, you should almost always try to clear your opponent's board of minions. This concept is called board control, and once your opponent has either no minions left on the board, or you have enough damage to kill them this turn, then it's time to attack his hero directly. The idea here is that if you don't clear your opponent's minions, then not only do you risk taking a lot of damage over time, but he could also easily play some board clear spell like Flame Strike to remove all of your minions while all of his are still alive. If you keep clearing his board until you have enough damage to kill him this turn, then board clear spells like Flame Strike will be significantly less devastating for you. This also means that playing Arcane Missiles or Fireball just to deal damage to your opponent is a lot worse than saving it in your hand to kill enemy minions. Again, unless you have enough damage to kill them really soon. Oh, and I just want to quickly add that you should never disenchant half of your collection just to craft cards for one specific class or deck. More often than not, you will regret disenchanting all those cards, especially when you decide you want to play the other classes. Besides disenchanting extra cards or golden cards, I would really recommend keeping most of the cards that you get. Anyway, I hope this tutorial was helpful to you in some way, so if it was, please let me know in the comments below. It took a very long time to script and edit this tutorial, but I wanted to take the extra time to do it to help you guys enjoy Hearthstone as much as I do. So if you're interested, I have plenty of other Hearthstone videos on my channel, and I also live stream this game semi-regularly on Twitch TV. My Twitch stream is a great place to ask me questions and learn about the game, so feel free to come by and say hello. You can also find my live stream schedule by going to my Twitch page and scrolling underneath the video player there. As always guys, I really appreciate the support, and if this extra content is well received, then that means that there is plenty more Age of Empires 2 on the way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.